Good afternoon, at least for me here in Portugal. It's around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 14 hours, or 1400 hours. It's the June the 1st, 2025. Okay, as you can see by the title of the stream, I decided to make this stream to, in a simple and quick way, uh, explain what is this connection between Europe and Europe's defense, with a brief historical precedent, a brief historical reason why some things are the way they are, and more. Okay, when did this all begin? Simple answer: at the end of World War II. At the end of World War II, the Soviet Union and the United States of America basically divided Europe up. A part would be under the control and influence of the United States of America, another part would be under the control of the Soviet Union. Over time, the part under the USA's control, it stopped being in control, direct control by the United States of America, and they became military allies and militarily positioned in the sphere of influence of the United States of America. And in the Soviet Union's side, due to the nature of the regime itself, which was authoritarian, non-democratic, absolute, what happened? The states that were in the old Soviet Union basically had no autonomy. As we can see in the historical events of the Soviet interventions in Hungary, for example, that is one that is very famous, in Czechoslovakia, which was which is today the two states of the Czech Republic and Slovakia, okay, and in Poland, for example, and in the Baltic states also, okay, and a little bit all over Eastern Europe, where the Soviets controlled, okay, and they tried to extend that control. For example, in 1974, when there was the revolution here in Portugal to end the authoritarian regime that was ruling Portugal since 1926, they tried to install a Soviet-style regime. This nearly led to a civil war, a real civil war. This nearly led to a lot of things that were avoided, very much due to French and German influence. And I'm talking about when I'm in that historical period. I'm talking about Western Germany. Okay, the West Germany, not the East Germany, of course. That was a puppet satellite state of the Soviet Union. And also people like President Jimmy Carter of the United States of America. Okay. In those days, you know the rhetoric. If you are 50, like I am, you were born and raised up until your late teens under the nuclear threat. I don't know about you, but even here in Portugal, there were some drills on what to do in the case of a nuclear event, meaning getting bombed by nukes. We would all go into a room in the building, and it was only later that I knew why was that. Because you see, where I was born, we were in the area of the blast radius due to in a strategic target that the Soviets would most definitely hit. So we were in the blast radius. So we would have around, I don't know, a minute or so before being turned into charcoal. So we were all taught to go to that little room so that when they came to collect our bodies, our dead bodies, whatever was left of it, they would know where we were all. This is a harsh truth, and some people today seem to be a bit oblivious of what the terror that was. It was a lingering fear, a lingering terror that was always in the background. And that when the Chernobyl event happened, when I was a teen, also when I was a kid, it it became even more apparent. So, unlike the USA, this is to explain this. Okay, unlike the USA, Europe has a first-hand experience, not to the point of Japan, that even has uh, a bigger experience on it. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, do they ring a bell? But this just to say that we had a perspective of real fear. In America, it was a fear, but not in the way that we were, because we were near the den of the wolf. And as I was saying, when Chernobyl happened, and I was a kid, we felt the effects, even here in Portugal. In Portugal, we did not felt it as much, but in certain regions, like the region where I was living, uh, events happened. The weather changed. We got an unusual cold spell for that period of time, and it rained green. All the milk production we have, it's a farm town, so it's basically the economy is farming. Okay, it has a couple of things more, but it's a small town and basically farming. The milk had to be destroyed, of course. Some animals had to be put down. Fruit and fresh vegetables had to be burned, and they had to clean the streets because they were green. And when I say green, I literally mean green. It rained green. And I remember my dad and all the dads in town. They kept us inside the house. They did not let us go outside. Okay, and even the school had to be closed because the students were not attending. So we had real fear. And then later on, I met with some kids from that area, from Ukraine, from other parts that were affected by Chernobyl, that came here through Catholic organizations to spend some days in the sun, okay, and in a healthy environment, okay, and to be able to go outside and play and do what kids like to do. And for context, as you can see, I'm a very pale guy, okay, not just because I'm part German, because 80% or 80 or 90% of our population is like me, but because I'm really a very pale person. I get red in the sun. I don't, and the older I get, the worse it is for me. Okay, I've been sick these last days due to a cold, hot, sorry, a heat wave that has happened around here. Now, uh, and I saw those kids, and near them, they looked like ghosts near me, as pale and as sickly as they were. And to tell you the truth, I befriended some of them. We became friends. We played football. That is soccer for you Americans. We had fun. I even dated a girl, a Ukrainian girl. Okay, so we just hang around like kids do. And to tell you the truth, I don't know if half of them even reach adulthood, or if half of them are still around and perhaps listening to me. Okay, so this is all to tell you, Americans, because we Europeans know it, and our kids also know it, that while you were in America, where Red Dawn and other stuff would make sure you would survive Russian, and I will call them Russian because that's the fuck they are, a Russian invasion, we were in the brink of being obliterated. And we had been disarmed both by the Soviets and by the Americans. Germany was disarmed. France was not disarmed, neither was the UK, but they were controlled by the Americans, and the French and the Germans were the first to kick out the American influence, and the British still to this day have, in my opinion, too much of US influence in the military apparatus. Now, let's talk about the bases, the military bases. Why were they established? They were established as a way for the USA to protect its outer borders. And its outer borders were the entire world versus the Soviet Union. Europe was the front line. So the Americans installed bases. Later on, those military bases became NATO bases. But first they were American bases. In that period of time, you Americans can say that you were paying for soldiers to be here, but you were not paying for the bases because they were removing the resources from the countries they were in order to sustain their bases because they were there to defend them. And this is something you now please keep this in mind as we move along. Now, let's continue. So, first, these was American bases. Then NATO was created as a way to defend Europe from the Soviet threat. And the bases were always, I will repeat this, always subsidized, paid, and manned by local forces, European army forces, and American forces. In some cases, the Americans wanted to have the exclusive control of the bases. But you would usually have an American attaché and then an ensemble of European countries. Just like as you see right now they are making when they are performing military drills and all of that. So this to tell Americans that you are not paying jack shit. You are investing. You are paying for soldiers to be here to maintain these countries outside the influence of the Soviet Union. So you are not doing us any favor. In fact, both you and the Soviets divided Europe up so that you could drain us of wealth. If both of you would have retreated to your borders and fucked off, we would be much better. But no. The Russians wanted East Europe and you wanted Western Europe. So this is the perspective that I, as a European, have of all this. Now, oh, you're not thankful. We saved you from the Nazis and you saved us from this and you saved us from that. Did I say that? What I said was, and now I will explain it to you, that we exchanged a lesser evil. We preferred the lesser evil instead of the bigger evil. And the Soviet Union was the bigger evil. And I don't care how many of people that are that liked the Soviet system and all of that crap talk about it. It was shit. In the Western style, at least you have some freedom of movement. You can live in a different way. You can evolve. You can talk like I am talking right now. In the Soviet Union, you would never have a free web like we have today. The internet, the YouTube, all of this. You would not have it. You would have the same shit the Russians now have. Some kind of mutant shit controlled by their government, and a bot factory to send in to the West. Sip of water. Now, continue. This is the situation up till now. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the absence of American investment became even more apparent, and more local armies, local states were providing for the defense. What did the USA provide? The nuclear umbrella that is now being provided by France and the United Kingdom. That has still a lot of influence from the US, but uh, even with all this crap about Brexit and all of that, I would always consider the British as another European just like me. Okay, I would not conform, or would not consider people from Reform and gentlemen like Nigel Farage and all of those people. I would not consider them European like me. But any normal British person that is walking in the streets, that is trying to survive, is a fellow European to me, a brother or a sister. And that will never change, even with Brexit and whatever the crap this is. And even Brexit, in the long run, will end. So, I will explain the part about the European Union. Okay? Let us now focus on this part of NATO and how bases are paid and all of that. Okay. I will give you the example of the base in the Azores, of the largest base that is Portuguese and that the Americans are using. Okay, they are renting the terrain to operate there, so that American planes, American ships can stop, refuel, do whatever they need to do. So they are using a piece of our terrain, our land. And why did we allow them to do that? Because we were military aligned with the USA, because the USA was our ally. I cannot say I consider the US an ally right now. I consider them as a paid mercenaries, because that is the way Mr. Trump is acting, like a paid mercenary. And because we had common interests. And in Europe, you have absolutely the same situation. You have strategic NATO bases where you see American troops, naturally, but that are manned by European soldiers. And now, with a quick rearming of Europe, this will even become more apparent. You will have countries ending contracts with American bases, with American forces, sorry, replacing them with their own troops, replacing the American nuclear umbrella with the French and the English and other countries that will certainly appear, and aligning with other countries outside of the EU. And why is this? Because the USA is no longer an ally. It no longer provides the necessary protection that we need. A protection we pay dearly. You want to know why we bought 4 cars, for example? Why we let you sell Coca-Cola, Pepsi, McDonald's, KFC? No. Why did we why did we buy weapons from you? Why did we buy ammunitions? Why did we buy training? Because you were allies. We trusted you. So, if you are helping us to defend ourselves, then we are going to help you too. We are going to buy your goods. We are going to trade with you. We are going to sell you the things that you need. Okay? We are going to feed your economy. And this is what Europe is still doing, but reducing, and what Canada is doing and is also reducing. We were feeding your economy. We were feeding the money that you had to renew your infrastructures. We were feeding your ability to build big houses at a cheap price. We were feeding you. We were feeding you. And if you don't like to listen to this, I don't care. Because you see, my friends, logic and freedom are two things you don't know. Because I hear people talking about, let's see how you get along without us to protect you and whatever. And you are uttering the same words as the Chito Bandido, like all shots calls him, nice one, speaks. He talks about uh, being an ally to someone as a money transaction, and he says the U is a, how did he call it, a scheme to steal the United States. Now, you want to know what the U is? The U is exactly what it is becoming. It is a way of ensuring that Europe won't be at war with itself ever again. Okay? Peace, independence. Peace, independence. And this is better phrased by a German politic that came here to Portugal around the time that we entered the EU. He was talking with our former, I think at the time he was the PM, yes, our former PM, Mário Soares, in which he said something that I will never forget. I don't recall the name of the gentleman. Sorry. But if you go back or something like that, you will most definitely find him. As I told you, I don't prepare these streams. I come here and I talk with you honestly and without any masks or any crap. Hmm? And that gentleman said, if my neighbor is at peace and can produce a lot of goods and is prosperous, then that neighbor will be able to help me, to buy my products, and to sell me his own. Okay? Countries that, for example, this is why Brexit is so stupid. But why would France antagonize Germany when they are so deeply connected economically and politically? And why would they not join in and defend themselves against a foreign foe like the Russian madman in the East right now that is killing off his own population, Russians that are also Europeans, and Ukrainians that are also Europeans? Because both him, Mr. Putin, and Mr. Trump, they all have the same mindset. Divide up Europe so they can profit. It's if you go down to the bottom of this wall, and I will just talk about Europe in this stream. I won't talk about the Middle East or whatever. If you go down to the bottom line, it is money that is behind all of this. Money and power. Nothing more. And this all of this talk about tariffs, it's people thinking like this was Europe in the 1940s. These people do not know the world. They do not know their own place in the world. China has taught the USA its place in the world right now. They don't know nothing. All they are doing is spreading confusion in order to get profit and to get power. I'll be drinking water often since it's even with a fan, it's a bit hot inside. Now, when I hear people say things like, I don't know, we are paying for Europe's defense and let's see how you get along without us, I have this question for you. Let's see how you get along without us. We are 450 million just in the EU people buying your goods, supporting your policies, and that is gone. Because you see, I will tell you this. You know how we Europeans, most of us, sorry, most of us, we don't really make a big scandal out of things. Most Europeans do what I do, for example. I go to the store. I have a wide range of soda drinks. I have national soda drinks. I have European soda drinks. I even have soda drinks from other parts of the world, from Japan, from Korea, from everywhere. Okay, and I go and I see also Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Fanta that was bought by the Americans. I see all of that, and I also see most of those soda drinks are produced right here. For example, here you get Pepsi and Coke either produced in Portugal by producers that also produce other national drinks, or from Spain. That is the rule. Okay, you have to understand that Portugal and Spain also have a very close economical relation. The Spanish sell a lot to us, and we sell a lot to the Spanish. So it's very interconnected. And the reason is because Portugal is basically surrounded by the sea and Spain. Simple as that. It's a natural thing, and it has always been this way. Okay, always. And I go to the store and I see those goods. This is American. I won't buy it. Maybe some my nephew something. Let's take a Coke or something, and I said, no, no, no. Let's take that one, the other one, the national one, the European one. That's it's the same thing and it's good. Oh, it's not the same thing. No, it's the same thing, and it is. Some say you might consider that sometimes people buy things out of habit. For example, me, I don't drink that often, you know. I like a beer. Yes, I do. I don't drink too much wine. I don't really care about it too much. The only type of wine I really like, and it's very, 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 very seldom, it's some red wine or something like that. Portuguese, South Portuguese. It's a wine that's very dense and sweet, but and a beer once in a while. But I really, really don't drink that much. I think you could say I drink a beer for months, something like that. Today I had one for lunch because it was hot and it tasted good. Okay, I had a, let's see, can I show it? Yeah, I had this one, this lovely German beer. It's very good. Like me, yep, bad eyes. 7.9 alcohol, and it's German. I don't know. Maybe it's an ethnic thing, but I prefer German beer. Now, but these are little actions that all Europeans will do. The kids, for example, around here, I see an interesting trend. They are avoiding to go to McDonald's, to go to KFC, to buy American products like the soda drinks, like the potatoes, like Lay's and all of that. That's American crap. They are avoiding all of that. Okay, and American cars going the same way. Already, American cars were not that good, and this I can tell you as a driver for many years. You know, I've been driving. I don't know how long, but let's say with the license, 25 years. With the license, better not talk about past crimes or past irregularities, not crimes. And I always found American cars, especially Fords, to be too heavy, to be too mechanically obsolete, and to drink fuel like like a motherfucker. They drank and drank and drank. So American cars were not that popular, but people were buying them out of habit. You had people that after the war, when the auto industry was completely destroyed, that were flooded by American products, that got used to those products and they brought them home and they gave them to their kids, and their kids started to also use those products. And then, as years moved along, they continued to consume those products out of habit. But you see, like I was telling you about the reaction of the Europeans, without much fuss, people now look at those products and see them as a brand of people that are trying to undermine them, that are insulting them, and that are stealing their money. This is how people view those companies right now. And even this platform, what I'm talking about now, YouTube, unless it continues more or less as it is right now, with its issues in terms of censorship and of keywords and whatever, but trying to obey European laws, and when I mean European, I mean EU laws, trying to adapt its behavior in the world according to the place where it is, unless that's for any kind of reason ends, this platform will persist. But others other alternatives will pop up. I am sure of this. I am absolutely sure of it that right now there is some European kid, some, in wherever in Europe, trying to develop an alternative to YouTube that is less, or at least, or that does the same thing as YouTube does, but that is not an American platform. And the same will happen to X, the same will happen to Amazon, the same will happen to Meta or Facebook and all of that. This is a process that will not stop. It might grow in a different way. For example, Facebook, you might have Facebook Europe, with its headquarters in Europe. I'm saying Facebook, but I mean any kind of media company with its headquarters in Europe, obeying different laws than in the US and continuing to operate. Just like Coke did by building plants here and producing Coke and Fanta according to our rules. And there is nothing evil in this. There is a simple question that we have different rules from the Americans. And I will explain this part right now in terms of food. You see here, a food item or chemical, whatever, it is only approved to be consumed, to be sold, after it is proven what the consequences it has on people, or that it is safe to be consumed by people. This is the rule here. First you test, and if it's safe, then you can use it. In the US, you use it and then you test it. So people are basically the guinea pigs of their own production. You are all guinea pigs of them. You are using all kinds of crap, okay? and you the consumer, you are the guinea pig. Do you understand the difference or no? You don't? This is why Fanta actually tastes like orange in Europe, and it's not that Nuka-Cola thing like in Fallout that shines in the dark. That bright orange thing that looks like some, and that it does not taste good at all, and it does not taste as Fanta. But continue. And these are all differences, fundamental differences between the way the US sees economy and the European Union sees economy and the UK sees economy also. You have to, in this part of food safety, you have to include the UK in this because even though they do not obey the same exact rules as Europe, the rest of Europe, their rules are equivalent and they potentially want to have the same objective as we do. Okay? Even if they've been having some issues, some flaws because of Brexit, but I'm sure that will improve over the years. Okay? Now, let's talk about something about the tariffs. The only tariffs Europe had on the US were the same reciprocal tariffs over the same products the US had. I will repeat this again. We only had the same tariffs that the US had on us. And tariffs are only there, you use them to protect a sector of your productive market. Okay? You don't use tariffs to earn money. Unless you are, for example, putting a tariff on expensive bags made in France that you use, and I will address also that thing about the Chinese producing all of it and later on. But let me make this point. Unless you are doing that, just like we do here also, you will only put a tariff on to protect the business. For example, in Europe, we put the tariff on Chinese electric cars because they were being subsidized by the state at a loss, so that the Chinese could present cars cheaper than the European cars. So we put the tariff on them. Why? To keep the markets balanced. We did not put the tariffs there to prevent Chinese cars from being sold in Europe. We just put the tariffs in order our cars can sell in an equal footing to the Chinese cars. This is how you put a tariff on. Okay? For example, Portugal is one of the largest producers of olive oil, of cork, and a couple of more products. So we put tariffs or we subsidize our own production in order to keep our industry alive and well and making a profit. This is important. You are not going to put tariffs on things that you know you cannot sustain. And the issue in the United States is this: you no longer have a car industry, you have a car assembly industry. I want me to explain? Okay. When you are making a car that has a nice brand that says made in the USA, the tires come from someone else. The carriage, how you call it, I don't know, of the car comes from another place. I don't know, the leather for the seats might come from another place, and then they are all assembled. Sometimes not even in the USA, in Mexico, for example, and then they are sold as American cars. And in this process, all countries that are a part of that process earn money. And you Americans, you get cheaper cars, you get cheaper iPhones, you get cheaper food, you have cheaper everything. And you can tell me, well, we could produce everything here, all right? Our American workers ready to work at the same pay as a Mexican worker, for example? Do you even have some of the know-how and technical expertise to build a car? And this is something I did not heard one word from any of the sides talking about. Your economy, my friends, is wealthy because it interconnects with many economies. And by doing so, you have soft power and influence. Now, if you detach yourselves from that, you lose your wealth and you lose your soft power. In Europe, I would say your soft power is all but gone. That is why Mr. Putin doesn't give a crap about what Mr. Trump is talking about. He doesn't care. Are there any American ships in the Black Sea? Are there any American troops, for example, enforcing peace? Are there any American nuclear support to allow European troops to move into Ukraine and expel the Russians? Saying to Mr. Putin, like Mr. Macron is now saying, that we also have nukes and we also will kick you out. This war could have ended day one if both Europeans and Americans would just say to Mr. Putin, get the fuck out of Ukraine or we are going to kick you out. And as soon as he would see the movement of troops, he would do what all bullies do. He would get the fuck out. But no, Europeans were scared. They did not want another war. They were shocked. They were unprepared. And that is our fault. And Americans that knew what the hell was going on either did not have the power, the military to do something about it, or they did not want it to do it. And my suspicion is the second one. They did not give a crap about Europe. Because as I told you in the beginning, when I explained to you how the military bases here work and how most NATO bases are manned by European soldiers with American soldiers also integrated, that are not the majority, that in some instances are not even in control of said bases, with the exception of bases that, for example, have nuclear silos installed or strategic intervention troops, and that we are paying out of the budget that we pay in to NATO. And we even agreed, because in that aspect he was right, because some countries were not contributing with the enough percentage of their income to NATO, and that we needed to double our armies, and we are doing so. But no one gives the crap about the Ukrainians. No one. Until they march into Kiev and got the surprise of their fucking lives. And right now, Europe will not let Putin win. And we don't give a crap about what Trump is saying. We don't give a rat's ass about what the hell he's talking about. That asshole. Okay? And Putin and Trump is playing into his hands. He's acting like an old fool. He's appearing weak. Putin agrees with the ceasefire. Oh yes, we will agree with the ceasefire right now. And then the day after, he does exactly the opposite. And kids continue to die, and Ukrainians continue to have to flee from that country. I know, I see them every day. And I have no issues in saying this. One of my nephew's best friend is half Ukrainian. His mom had to bring in her sisters and her nephews here to Portugal to be so they could be safe. Okay? We have taken into our country, and we are a small country, thousands of Ukrainians. And I'm proud of us because they are Europeans like I am. And if we help other people from other parts of the world, our major obligation is to our neighbors that are right here next door. And I'm not saying this because they are white or because they are Europeans. Some of them are Muslim. I don't give a fuck about that shit. They are my neighbors, my friends, my potential friends, and I knew a lot of them when I was a kid because of the situation of Chernobyl that I talked with you about. Now, what will happen in the future? What is happening right now? And you have to understand these things, they are not quick, they are not uniform, and they function according to what is happening. And what is scary right now is the perspective of having European boots in the ground. France and the UK right now are the instigators, let's call it this way, not in a negative way, of putting troops in the country. Countries like mine, like Portugal, we already said we will send troops in with you. And if you think we are weak or whatever, no. Our army is small, but it's not weak. We have a professional army and have had a professional army for decades now. So these are military units that can be called today and tomorrow they are only in the ground. And if you go to other countries in Europe, you'll find the same thing. The issue here is that Mr. Putin is waging a Second World War type of war in Ukraine. You want to know why they are able to advance? Imagine this. You are defending an Ukrainian front line, you and your comrades, and a wave of people comes against you. You shoot one, you shoot two, you shoot three, you shoot four, you shoot 200. But behind those 200, there are 200 more advancing. What do? You have to retreat. Get your gear and go back. Because if you stand there, you can kill those 200, 200 more will come. And this is exactly what he's doing. He is killing people like they were puppets. He doesn't give a crap. He's sending in troops. One dies, another one is coming. North Koreans come, kill them. Chinese mercenaries, kill them. Russian peasants, kill them, kill them, kill them, kill them. All he cares about is a victory. And some people say, oh, that is very good. That is the spirit. No, he's fucking up Russia. Russia has 140 million people today. In 3 decades, it will have around 120 million. In 3 decades more, it will have around 19 million. And do you think the countries surrounding Russia with growing populations won't simply march in and conquer? Do you really think that? Are you that naive? And you ask me, and then why is Mr. Putin doing this? Because he's a maniac. He's a butcher. He's a butcher just like the ones that sent the Americans to die in Vietnam and that bombed parts of Laos back into the Stone Age. So much so the Viet Cong started building tunnels under the land. He's a maniac like Hitler. He's a maniac like Stalin. You don't you don't negotiate with people like this. You cannot negotiate with people like this. You have to show strength. I'm not saying do a nuclear strike on Moscow. I'm not saying that crap. What I'm saying, for example, is a simple thing like this. Imagine this. European troops, and I think this will happen, marching to West Ukraine, and they make a non-flight zone to that area. Any Russian aircraft, drone, whatever that tries to enter that area will be destroyed. And they did tell them, now we are going to make this area a non-flight zone. And they advance. And they don't let them bomb children's hospitals, energy infrastructures, and we allow the Ukrainians to bomb the hell out of them because they don't deserve this. And if any Russian is listening to me, know this: this is not personal to you. Even if I'm part Prussian, and like my grandfather always told me, vertrau Ivan niemals. Verstehen Sie, was ist gesagt? Vertrau Ivan niemals. Never trust Ivan. Even with all of this, I refuse myself to hold Russian people as villains. But the people that are running your country, animals. And you need to get rid of them. Do it, I would advise, if you can, do it peacefully. Remove them from power peacefully. Bloodshed never led anywhere. But to stand here while people are getting killed, while I listen to stories like I personally heard, that when I was entering a supermarket here in my town, and there was this woman that is Ukrainian with a little girl, and that she was talking with her mom. And then I arrived, and because I had told her where the pharmacy was or something like that, I don't know, a colloquial interaction of that type. And I asked her, so what is she saying? And then she told me she was telling her mom that she was very happy to be able to be here and go to the supermarket without the bad men shooting at her. You want to know why? Because where she was, Russian soldiers in Ukraine, out of fun, because it was very fun, they would sit near places where people had to go, like gas stations, like supermarkets, like those essential places where absolutely need to go, and they would shoot at people just to watch them run away. And sometimes they would even kill people, and sometimes they would even wound people. This, if you were lucky enough not to get raped, even if you are a man, well, you don't like to listen to this, no? Yes, this happens. Rape, kill, dehumanize people. This is all. This is all what they are doing there. Do you think the areas that are under Russian occupation, they are all fine and dandy? Are you really that naive? If you are an American, you are probably that naive because all you know about war is about the trauma in Vietnam and now the so-called trauma of the Gulf War that I'm not undermining because those soldiers, they deserve respect. I respect, but I don't respect the people that are talking this crap and that only know about war from the movies. You want to know how I know about the war? When my uncle, for example, told me what happened in the colonial war and what he and my dad had to do. And also know this, all of my uncles, almost all of my uncles and my dad were in the colonial war. And all of them were special troops, meaning the ones that were sent in into the deepest, bloodiest holes in the goddamn war. Okay? One of the reasons why my dad never wanted a weapon inside the house. And Americans, you should know this. Yes, we can have weapons. Yes, we can have a rifle to hunt. We can have a personal defense weapon. We can even collect them. And we can have blades. We can have all of that. That is another lie you were told. No, I had a hunting rifle license. I just came, but early on in my youth, I decided that I preferred to hunt animals with my notepad to draw or a camera to take pictures. Because what I was looking for in the act of hunting, even if sometimes I took my bow or whatever, it was the pursuit of the animal. To be able to be near a wild animal without the animal seeing me. That is what I was looking for. But I have no issues with people that like to hunt. If you like to hunt, good for you. Okay? But all of these myths that you have, the myth of the free healthcare. I listened to the I today we'll be I'm going to talk about this. This is a long video right now, but I will continue to talk about this. I will continue this stream for a little while longer. The myth of the free healthcare in Europe. Okay, let me explain you this. Every month, from my pay, my employer and me take a part of my money, and a part of that money goes to the healthcare system, and the other part goes to the tax and the social care. Meaning, every time I work and receive a pay, even if I'm in the private sector, the public sector, it doesn't matter. Even if I, for example, am selling cars and get a percentage out of it, I pay my taxes. And then those taxes go into the state. And then the state is responsible to give me things like healthcare, things like medicine, and other things like that. And then when I pay the services, I pay a percentage according to my income. That can be zero or an affordable quantity. Even if you're richer, an affordable quantity. Because it's a mathematical equation that is an absolute. What does this mean? It's an absolute. It means that it doesn't matter if you won, for example, let's say 1,500 euros, okay? And if you receive 800 euros, there will be an equation that will use those two values to determine the percentage of your income that has to be collected as tax and as social contributions and all of that. And then you have groups. For example, if you earn 800 euros, you pay an X percentage of taxes. If you earn 100 and 500, you earn X percentage of, and so on. This means that the system, even though sometimes it has flaws, right now the healthcare system is being completely renewed because it was not working properly. But the principle here is that it is written in our constitution that we are entitled as citizens with rights and duties to healthcare. Everyone has to have healthcare. And you will say, oh, and what about those people that don't pay taxes and whatever? I don't care. I rather have a universal system that allows a person to not be afraid of calling an ambulance. I rather have that and a couple of parasites hanging around than having a system where people can die with the lack of free healthcare. Some years ago, in a beach right here in Portugal, where I was, I saw a lady that was clearly having a heat stroke. As I told you in the beginning of the stream, I sometimes suffer a lot with the heat, even though I love the beach. So I knew the symptoms. And the lifeguard and some people like me, I was there also because I was near it, were telling, look, we have to call the we have to call an ambulance because this she needs to go to a hospital and get hydrated and taken care of and all of that. And the lady and her family, they were absolutely in panic because they did not had enough money on them. They had left their wallets in the hotel and whatever, and they were absolutely panicking. And the lifeguard and then the people from the ambulance when they arrived, they were telling her to stop, okay, you have to go to the hospital, and they practically had to haul her ass into the ambulance to take her to hospital because she needed to be hydrated. I know this has happened to me before, where I had to lay in a room being hydrated with an IV and all of that crap because I was you start to lose. First you start to be a little disoriented, then you start to lose, you start to tremble, you know, and you can die from it. You can die from it, from a heart attack, from whatever. She was, I later on talked with one of the lifeguards because I knew him. She was scared that she would might get jailed or something because she did not have enough money to pay for a bloody ambulance. An ambulance. And this is monstrous. Here, you will not be, I repeat, you will not be denied treatment if you don't have money or if you are a tourist. Usually, what happens, you will be charged a tax that is around, I don't know how much, I don't know how much it is right now, but it's in the range of 10 to 20 euros, something like that, or zero, depending on the situation. Okay? And why is this? Because we pay taxes to have this situation. You Americans, you could have the same thing. Here, the state sets up charts of the maximum permitted price of a medicine or of a medicine or procedure. And then you, according to your income, you will pay a percentage on that specific procedure or medicine. You can also have private healthcare. You can pay for it. I have a health insurance too for certain procedures because it's quicker than wait for an appointment with my doctor and whatever. So I go and I pay for an appointment and I talk with the doctor and I solve my things and whatever. But going back to that, the medical procedures, uh, last year around January or something like that, I fell. I was an asshole. I slipped and I hit my leg and I got hurt. So I didn't care. Oh no, I won't do nothing about this, and I just let it go. And basically, The day next after that one, I was unable to move my leg because I had done some shit to my leg, and I was too proud to admit it. I went to the hospital. First of all, I called the hotline or whatever, and they told me what I. No, it's the procedure. When I arrived there, I was immediately 10 minutes maximum seen by a nurse. She gave me a brace. It's kind of a thing that you use in your wrist according to your situation, from red, which is the absolute emergency, to green. And she wanted to give me the yellow one, but I said no, don't worry. You can give me the green. I can wait. I was not making myself very strong. No, but I knew that I could wait. I have a pretty high tolerance to pain, unlike some men. Okay, but then again, I was in the hospital when I was around 6 or 7 years old, being prone drawn and examined by doctors and whatever because of some health problems that I was born with. But I sat in a room. I waited quarter of hour, 20 minutes. I went into a room. I was examined. Sorry, these are my allergies. I was examined by a doctor, full exam. He then ordered some blood works, taking some blood and doing the tests and whatever. Blood works. And he told me to go and take two exams. One that those exams kind of x-rays that you do with the machines and whatever, and he told me to wait. I went into the room. 5 minutes later there was a nurse. He came, he told me, let's go. Do you need a wheelchair? And I said no, I can walk. And more or less I walked through the room. I got did the exams. I went back to the same room. To It's kind of a treatment area. It's a large room where you sit with other people in those types of treatments also. They took my blood, uh, all of that. I would say the entire process less than an hour. After that, I went back inside and talked with the doctor. He printed out the exams. Right now, they get the exams, they send it to you to email, for example, if you want to. But if you want them printed, you can ask for it. He gave me all of my exams, okay? And then he told me what was wrong with me. He immediately treated me. He gave me something which was basically, he gave me a painkiller and he sent me into the treatment room to be treated. And then I had an open IV. They treated me, the nurses. I waited there. I had to wait. Now I had to wait a little longer because I was being treated for about 2 hours. When it was all done, I went to the doctor again. He gave me a prescription of the medicine I would need for a week. After that, he told me, fortunately, I didn't broke anything. Okay, it was just a scare and a bad fall and a muscular issue and whatever. I went home. I passed by the pharmacy first to buy my medicine. I went home. How much did this all cost me? Want to know? For everything they did to me, the procedures, all of that, in the hospital, I paid 21 euros. 2 1. 21 euros. And then at the pharmacy, I paid around 9 euros. And all of this with a specific order from the doctor that if I felt any kind of issues, because it was near the spinal cord, so I had to be careful. I was ordered to immediately contact the medical services and to be re-examined again. So 21 plus 9, 30 euros. And it was all that I paid. Why? Because I pay taxes. Because we all pay taxes for this. It's not free healthcare, Americans. It's logic healthcare. Denmark, for example, they pay extremely high taxes. But go and see their quality of life. Go and see it, please. You Americans are the victims of corporate greed. Corporate medicine is draining you of resources. And this happens because of the inaction of your government. Your government could take things like Medicare and transform it into a universal national service, a medical service, an NHS, just like they have in the UK and all over Europe. And it would be perfectly affordable, and it will also be very competent. You say we have the best doctors and the best this and the best that. No, you don't have. You have good doctors, you have good procedures, but you don't have the best medical services in the world. No, you don't. Okay. And meanwhile, you keep saying things like you are paying for NATO bases, you are paying for this, you are paying for that. You are not paying for nothing. You are doing your job, you are doing your position as a military ally. That is what we were doing. And we were paying for it. And right now, what is happening is this: Europe is rearming. We are not going to buy weapons from your weapons companies like we did before. Portugal, for example, cancelled the purchase of F-36 jets from the US. We are now going to buy French jets or English jets. I don't know. We are going to buy European jets. Even if we bought Chinese jets, we are not going to buy American jets because you are treating us as enemies. And your products, your cars, people say, oh, people are boycotting Tesla because of the positions of Musk and whatever. Blah, 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 blah. The primary reason people are boycotting Tesla is because their cars are shit. They are inferior to even the Chinese cars. And they are certainly inferior to European cars. And we were buying American-made cars of American companies because, like I told you before, of the habit of doing so. And because we are allies, and because we wanted to help you, and we did it. And you might say, oh, so good of you, you are doing us favors. No, it was logic. Like I told you, that German fellow said when he came here, okay, if my neighbor is wealth is prosperous and it produces goods and it's all right and it is okay at peace, he can buy my goods and I can sell him my goods. He can buy them and he can sell me his. A relation of dependence. It was not a relationship of a king, okay, and a subject. It was a relation of allies that morphed into that relation from a situation where the United States of America and the USSR divided up Europe to exploit their respective portions for their own gain. And what is happening right now with the Ukrainian war, it's that all over again. The only difference is that the war is not being fought in Germany, it's being fought in Ukraine. But it's the same shit. And it's the same rhetoric. And this time around, we are going to have to step in. And I hope we do. And even though I'm old and I have some issues with my health, if I can, I will volunteer. If I'm called upon, I will. Better for me to die than some my young nephews. I have lived, I can die. And this is something an American will never understand. Unless you are a veteran. And my last word will be to the American veterans. My friends, as I told you, my father was in the war. So were my uncles. My entire family has been in wars. In fact, we earned the right to be here in Portugal, coming from other places that I have spoken already from, about where we came from. Okay, that's East Germany and France. We earned our place here, being soldiers, fighting for this country, fighting for the flag, not for the people, for the flag. And so you, all of you, American veterans, and all of you decent American people, I will tell you this: Europe will stand with you if you stand with us. Canada will stand with you if you stand with them. If you are allies and if you get rid of this mentality of we pay for everything and all of that crap. And you need to respect your veterans. If someone picks up a gun and fights for your flag, no matter who sent them there, that person deserves your respect. Because that person is risking their life to help you. Be it a straight person, a man, a woman, a gay, a trans, whoever that person is. If that person picked up the gun and that person fought for your country, for your flag, no matter how unfair or how stupid the war was, you owe them your respect. You owe them, because they paid with blood for you to sit around and have your macchiato latte and talk shit in the internet, like saying to you to the like saying to a lowly EU YouTuber that is not even a professional YouTuber. I'm not earning 1 cent with this, and in this channel, I will probably never monetize it unless something dramatically changes, unless I have 10,000 followers or whatever. In that case, I will do it. But I will never cease to say the truth, to talk about the truth, to be honest. None of this, none of what I said in this stream was rehearsed. None of this was recorded or whatever. And as you can see, it's just me talking with you, nothing more. And this is how I like to make a stream. Because this way, you know I am being honest. And if I get something wrong, I get something wrong. If I offend something, well, I'm very sorry. Perhaps, like a famous American actor said, free speech, motherfucker. Because you have to know and you have to understand the difference between absolute free speech and between free speech. Free speech is to do what I'm doing right now, talking about things, being honest, not calling for war, for death, for destruction, calling to defend Ukraine. Of course, I will call to defend Ukraine because Ukraine is under attack, because Ukrainians are dying, and because Russians are dying too. They also matter to me. Unlike some people might say, oh, they deserve, they are there because they want, they are being paid and all that. Again, if you stand for the flag, you deserve respect. And I will always respect someone in that position. Always. Because I heard the stories. I heard what people had to do. Not choose to do, had to do. And this is why in each and every war, I will always take the side of the civilian population. Because they are not volunteer actors. They are not sent actors. They are just there taking the hit, getting killed, getting raped, getting dislocated, getting looted, getting pillaged. And no one gives a fuck about people dying. People dying in Ukraine. And like I said in this video, I will only focus on Europe. So I will not talk about other parts of the world. I will do a stream about it because I think we need to do it. We need to talk about that too. About Gaza. We need to talk about Sudan. We need to talk about Myanmar. We need to talk about a lot of places in the world that are going through hell. But I will end this stream by telling this to all of you Americans. No, you are not paying for our defense. No, you are not being robbed by us. And no, it was not us that created this situation. It was you. And your dear leader has just destroyed in months since January what it took your country 60 years to create. And when this is all over, if you are able to get rid of him, you will not be able to recuperate everything because the bond of trust is broken. Quoting Friedrich Nietzsche, okay, freely because I don't really remember the translation into English, but I am not offended, angry, sad because you lied to me. I am angry because now I can no longer trust you. And this is how things are going to be in the future. And if Europe suffers consequences from this, well, our responsibility. We have to be accountable for our actions. But I'm sure we will be able to move on because we are moving on. And the US, it's still back in the 80s. Somewhere there. Well, if you are in America, I wish you good luck. If you are an American veteran, sir or madam, my respects. You deserve it. And not like that clown that is very nice and looks like Sergeant Clink or whatever the fuck he looks like. Meanwhile, he's calling veterans losers and they are stealing my money. I'm not like that. I honestly respect you, even if you don't agree with my positions. Even if you don't agree with one word that I said in this stream, I will still respect you. Okay? Have yourselves a nice Sunday, and I am going now to do something else. Perhaps go out, have a coffee or something like that, and just try to enjoy what is left of my weekend. Because tomorrow, work day, and I'm glad to have work and food, and to be here, to be alive, and talking with you